Yesterday we have seen about just an introduction to data warehouse and a simple way to create a data warehouse. Today we will create data warehouse and we will load the data into that data warehouse using a CSV file without using any pipelines. So firstly, in order to revise the things of data loading, so in order to load the data or ingest the data into this fabric from external sources, we can use copy data jobs or any kind of pipeline activities to get the data into the lakehouse. Now, if you want to properly create a data warehouse and load the data into the data warehouse, you can use those activities that are in the pipeline. That is one way. So the major activities are copy data and data flow, which we have already seen as a part of ingestion. So apart from those two, there is another one way using the SQL queries that is called TSQL queries, transactional SQL queries. Today we are going to see how to ingest the data using the TSQL queries. So for that, first thing is we need to create a workspace. So I'll give the name as workspace as data loading. So this is my workspace. Now I'll be first creating a lakehouse so that I can bring the external data to my lakehouse first. So I'll name the lakehouse as Lake 1. Here comes the lakehouse interface. I have already downloaded this data set, which is already in my local system. So I'll be uploading the data set from there to this lakehouse. So my CSV file is over here under the files. That is the sales.csv. Now I'll create a staging area. So whenever we are creating a data warehouse, we need to create a staging area where that is easy for us to understand the tables and where the staging tables are present. From there, you'll take the data for transformation. So first thing is I will load this CSV file into a table. I'll create a new table with the name staging sales. And data set has the header. I'll tell use the header for column names and I'll tell it to load. Okay, we were inside the lake house and I'll try to load the table. So this is a table inside the lake house. So we have created the staging sales table inside the lake house. The now next step is to create a warehouse. So in order to create a warehouse, go to workspace, click on the workspace that you have created, click on the new item and now search for warehouse. So there is a sample warehouse and a warehouse. Select warehouse. Give a unique name to the warehouse. So I'll give it as data loading. So this is your data warehouse workspace interface. So now we will select the new query. So data loading is the name of the warehouse and there are by default the schema is DBO. So under this there we will be creating all the tables, the dimension and fact tables. So the first step is we will have to create the schema. By default it is DBO, but I'll create a schema called sales. So for that, so first thing is we'll create the sales schema. Once we have created the sales schema, then we will be creating dim customer under the schema whatever we have created. So the sales will be the schema name. Under that schema, we will be creating a dim customer as the dimension table and it will contain the customer ID, customer name and the email address. And for that, we will, so first we'll create the dim customer table. Then after that, we will define the primary keys over here by enforcing it. So the customer ID will act as a primary key. It will be in a non-clustered format. It will be defined as the non-input, so no actual constraint enforcement is there on this dim customer table. So now let me run the set of queries. Yes, the schema has been created. So our schema is here, sales. So what are the tables we create will come under this. So similarly, we'll also create this dim customer table. So we are also creating if object ID doesn't exist, then it has to create this. So the storage will be like 1 row per customer. So once after the dim customer, it is dim item. Similarly, the item ID will not be enforced here. So we'll add a constraint for pk dim item. So basically, whatever the schema we would be creating, it will be creating as a factor table. So this will act as a fact table over here. Then there are dimension tables. Now we will create a view for our staging. I'll take a new query for that. So I'll give house name from where staging data is there. So wherever we have created the staging table, so it is in our lake house. So our lake name is lake 1. So I'll be giving it as lake 1. It is under the DBO schema, right? So it's under DBO, it is staging table, sales. So this we will create a view. Like yesterday, however, we have created the view for the sales table. Similarly, here for the staging table that is in the lake house database. So we are creating the view for this staging table in our data warehouse. So the view is also created. Now under views, I'll be able to see those staging tables, staging sales. So now once I create a view, it will be easy for us to see the data and load the data into this particular dimension and fact tables. So the next step will be loading the data into this dimension and fact tables. So I'll take a new query for that. Of the first sentences, we will be creating a stored procedure to load the data from staging. So that is from the sales staging sales table. So here this stored procedure loads or inserts the data for a given year based on the order of year from the staging view. Whatever the view we have created over here, we will fetch the data from there and push into the dimensional model. So whatever the model we have created here, that is the data warehouse model, will be pushing the data into it. That is what stored procedure does. So under the stored procedures, we have defined the operations. So first thing is we need to load the data into the customer table. So we will use the syntax like insert into. So we will take the schema name of the warehouse we have created, that is sales, dimension customer, and we'll take the customer ID, customer name, and customer email address. And we'll tell select the distinct customer name. We don't want any duplicates to be inserted. Staging sales is the view. So we'll be using this view that we have created just a minute before. So after that, we have put a condition that it should enter according to the year. So basically, it takes a customer info for a given year. That is what it does over here. Then it inserts into the dim customer table, and only if that customer doesn't exist. In the sense, suppose if we have a customer like customer Ramesh and there is the entry is already present in this database. Now, when the second time there is the same person who has purchased some items in the store, his data would be reflected in the sales.csv. Now, when the data point comes over here, now there is a customer called Ramesh again, which is already stored in the sales customer. Now it doesn't have to add it to this table because the customer is already present in the table. So in that case, it has to avoid the duplicates. That is why the and not exist condition is put so that it doesn't allow any duplicates. So it uses the customer name has both the ID and the name. So we are just loading the data into the data warehouse, but in the real time, the IDs will be the surrogate keys, which will not be seen. But for now, for the demonstration purpose, it has been taken as the customer name. Similarly, we have a operation to insert into the sales dim item staging sales view itself with the same condition where it loads unique items and products that is sold during the selected year. Whichever the year we have selected, based on that, it is going to insert. Again, it also avoids the duplicates over here. So, and the last one is we'll be loading the data into the fact table, that is fact sales. So we'll be inserting all the data, the customer ID, item ID, sales order number, sales order line number, order date, tax amount, and unit price. Here, doing is, so we will select the customer name, item, and sales order number, and cast that columns as a sales order line number, order date. So, and we'll also cast this order line number as int. The order date has date and quantity as int. We will also cast this tax amount as float. We'll cast this the unit price as float. Well, taking the input, and it has to take the input from the view itself, that is staging sales based on the year. So in order to tell at a very high level summary, we can tell it as it inserts the transactional sales data for that particular year, and it links the to the customer table and items using their customer ID and customer name. That is what it's going to do. And it converts the columns into proper data types before it is inserting. Suppose if the line number is in string, it will convert into an int before it has been inserting into this table. So let us run the whole set of queries. So all the tables have been loaded now. So now in my CSV file, I think I already have my 2021 data. So suppose if my data had not contained, for example, 2020 first data, then I'll be using this command execute the stored procedure, that is sales dot. So when we run this particular command, the whole this stored procedure runs. So as of now, it's already inserted, so it is going to override it. Yep, it has successfully executed. It has overwritten the basically in the 2021. If the data is already present, it will overwrite it in the sense as we have put a condition, if not exist only, it has to go into the tables. So if it's already existing, so it will just ignore those lines. So you can just use select star from Tim customer and you can check. So if you want to see that, you can just delete some of the rows of a particular year from your original CSV file, and you can create one more view called staging for the same sales database. You can just run this execute sales data loading from staging 2021. So basically, anyways, you guys have the three different files of 2019, 20, and 21. You can only in the data lake, right? Whenever you are loading, creating a single table as a sales, you can only just push the sales data for 2 years, and for third year, once you run the first operation of this stored procedure, and for the second operation, you can just push the last year's 2021's data to this table and then execute using this command. So that is how the stored procedure runs over here. So now, how do we run this queries and analyze the things? So I'll take a new query bar, and so now we'll see the total sales by each customer. So first thing is, so here first we'll be joining the fact table to the customer dimension. So here it calculates each of the customer's total sales, that is unit price into quantity has total sales, and it filters only for the year 2021 and sorts in the descending order and shows the top customers. So I'm only running the first query. This is the total sales with by customer name. So each customer, what is the total sales done by each of the customer? So the top customer would be Jordan Tuner. So similarly, now we will see the total sales with respect to item. So instead of here we have taken customer name, here we'll be taking the item name. The query is same again, but the join will be done on the item IDs. Here it will be done on customer IDs, whereas here it will be done on the item ID. And here we will group by customer name, and here we will group by item name. And here again will be ordering the total sales in the descending order. So let us run this and see the output. So the results are here. Now this much of sales for this particular item. So each item has its own total sales. So this was about the total item sales by customer. Let me show you one more method, that is using CTEs, the common table expressions. I'll take a new query for that. So here I have created a called categorized sales. So what this does is we will find the top customer per category. That is why I'm creating this query. So I want to know customer for each of the categories. So I have created a CT called categorize sales as. Then I will be selecting the item name, helmet, bike, gloves. So if the item name is like helmet, it will show it as helmet. If it is like bike, wherever the in the string the item name has these, it will be shown as bike. Wherever it is gloves, it will be shown as gloves. If in the particular string in a particular row doesn't contain this of string, then it will be shown as other, and it will end as a category. So, and then we'll also select the customer name from customer table, and we will take the total sales by multiplying the unit price into quantity. And this all these things is taken from the sales table, and we will be joining fact sales table with the customer table, the item table. So the fact tables with the dimension tables, and we'll apply a filter for the year 2021. So once after that, we will create a ranked sales CT. So basically, now the categorized sales CTE will do two things. That is, categorize each sale into one of the four categories which we have mentioned over here, and it is based on the item name and also calculates the total sale amount per row. So what is the total sales of this for each and every entry? Now created another CTE called ranked sales. So what this is going to do is I'll be selecting the category, customer name, and I'll be taking the sum of the sales as total sales, and I'll apply a partition over a category and ordering it over the total sales in a descending order. Basically, I'm using a rank function over here, top sales from the CTE that I have created over here. So basically, once after this has been executed, with based on this category, it'll give the ranking for each of this category with by the customer name and category. So it aggregates the total sales per customer per category, and it uses the row number to rank this customers with each category with total sales. So now this is a final select statement. So what should our final output show is it should show the category. I need the category, customer name, and total sales from the rank sales from this CTE where the sales rank is equal to 1 and I want to order the total sales in a descending order. So it picks only the top rank customer category and it orders the total sales in the descending order to show which category has the biggest top customer. That is what is going to happen over here. Run the whole query. Yep. So based on the categories, it has been bought the total sales over here. So for the bike category, the customer name is Carson Butler, who has done the sales of $318 and the helmet. It is Charles Jackson, who has done a sales of 209.94. And in glove section, we can see that John has been purchased around 97.96 dollars worth of gloves. So this is the top three customers for each of these categories. In order to summarize the querying part in detail, so first we have created the for schema with the name sales, and also we have created the fact table along with that. Once we have created the fact table, we have created the dim customer and the dim item table. So once after creating the table, we have created a view for a staging table, staging cells, and it connects the raw data source to the lake house. And we have created the view and we have bought the view over here. Then once after we have loaded this, we have given the whole procedure. So this is of creating the view and is of creating a stored procedure. Stored procedure name as load data from staging over the using the variable called order year, which is in the int. So we will start loading procedures that loads and cleans the data into the warehouse model, whatever the warehouse we have created. So once after that, you can, if you have n number of sales data in a single file, then we can just use this stored procedure to execute the whole data. So I can just like execute the sales load staging. For example, if we have 2025, the load using this 2025 by inserting the 2025 over here. This is one of the fastest loading method so that all the performance of the queries doesn't degrade. Using the stored procedure over the year, that too applying a filter, it is very easy to run the queries and the performance would be far better when you run the whole thing every time. So after that, we started running some analytical queries. So first thing we saw like total sales by customer and total sales by item. So that is what we have seen here. And at last, we have done some aggregations and we have created some CTEs to get the or the top four categories who has done the maximum sales in each of the category. So this is what we have seen as a part of loading the data into the data warehouse. So here we have not used any pipelines. We have loaded the data using the TSQL queries and we have queried it analytically using the TSQL itself by creating CTEs and performing aggregations and rankings to derive the insights. Are there any questions here? So
How do we do incremental load?
here what we have done is here we have for the incremental load. So if there are any new data that is taken care over here. So if there is a new line of data inside the CSV file, it has taken care in this process because we have already put a condition somewhere in the stored procedure, right? To load the data based on the customer name, or we are using the item ID and the for the other table using its own IDs. So this has the capacity to handle the incremental load. Incremental load is taken care over here. So because if I insert a row over there, it will load into these tables and the data will be collected over here. But if there is a correction over the data and it has to store the historical data, that has not been taken care over here. So another one way, to take care of the incremental load is you can change the years over here. So if you have the data of 2025, you can just push the data of 2025. So like that, the incremental load is taken care based on the year. So are there any more questions?
Yeah.
Like we have seen how to load the data directly manually as well as using TSQL. So if there are no questions, we are good to close for the day.
That's all for now. Like and subscribe and turn on notifications for future videos. Thank you.